Good afternoon, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio. Jeannie White is the producer and writes the blog, which I suggest that you read. You're going to want to stay tuned for this audio cast, folks, because I have a guest who wrote a book called Surviving Dementia Without Losing Your Mind. Now, I can tell you personally, I wish there was a book like this 19 years ago because I would have ran out and purchased it. And I would suggest going out or, going on Amazon and getting this book, because if you are a caregiver, you might be losing your mind trying to survive dementia, and you need to read this book. And I wish Marisa Pasquini, welcome to Chatting with Betsy, and I wish you probably were too young to write the book 19 years ago. But thank you. Thank you for writing a book like this to help caregivers.
Wow.
Can you please tell us about yourself? How did you write the book, and, what your background is and all that good stuff?
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Welcome. I appreciate it.
I'm a little crazy. We're a little crazy. Well, I'm a little crazy here on Chatting with Betsy. I'm a New Jersey gal, and I just tell it like it is.
That's what I love about you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So, like Betsy said, my name is Marisa Pasquini, and I wrote a book called Surviving Dementia Without Losing Your Mind. And the reason I wrote the book is because I was a caregiver for 12 years for people with dementia, and there were many times when I literally felt like I was losing my mind. And so that was just my experience. I would get in my car at the end of the day and I would literally scream in my car. And then I learned, how to really be with the people, the clients that I had, and I have dementia in my family as well now. But when I learned these little strategies, it really made all the difference for me. And I worked in a facility for a short time, and I noticed, I kind of had this expectation that, these gals, these caregivers are really going to know this stuff. Like, they're going to be aware. And I just saw that the patients with dementia were worse off. I'm sorry. They were worse off because the caregivers really didn't know how to care for a person with dementia, what to say to them, what not to say, how to be with them. And so I thought, I got to put this together and share it. So that's where the book came from. It came from my 12 years of caregiving experience, and then, the training and education that I got during that time. But any person that has cared for a person with dementia knows that all the training is doing it. That's where you get that's where you really know what to do and what not to do. So, I have a certification and all these kind of things, which are great, wonderful stuff. But everything I took and I learned in the classes were stuff that I was already experiencing in my caregiving. So, you know that it's really when you're with the person that you learn. I should say, it would seem that I could just have a conversation with my loved one because they're my loved one and I've known them for 30 years. Well, guess what? Everything's changed now, and it's a whole different world. It's a whole new reality. And so in fact, that's something that I named in the book was the new reality rules, the 3 rules of kind of being with a person with dementia. So that book is based on those rules. Yeah, because, I
love that.
Yeah, the new reality is what it really is. It's just they're not part of that old life anymore. And that's a hard thing for families to grasp,
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that that their person just isn't them anymore. It's something new, and being something new, the person caring for them, their family, their team, whatever we're calling it, they need to go to that new reality with their loved one in order to have joy and have success and feel like they're really providing good care for them, for their loved one. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background. I had one client in particular that was, I loved her so much. I still love her. She's still with us, but she's in a much different place now. So I love her so much, and she had so many behaviors and so many triggers and so many, so much anxiety and fear that I think she really inspired me. She inspired me to learn, and then she inspired the book because she was my BFF, and I wanted her to have peace. I wanted her to have as much joy as she could have in life. And so, it's really dedicated to her and, that time that I got to spend with her, which will always be precious and was life-changing for me,
That's beautiful. Out of tragedy, out of sadness comes something beautiful. And you wrote this book, which I didn't read, but I can tell that it is definitely would be worth a caregiver to read. I wish there was books like this for me to help me navigate. I call it the Dementia Waters, but I had to kind of drown and rescue myself because there wasn't the information. And Marisa, in your book, do you talk about how to handle hallucinations and sundowning?
I do, because that's, unfortunately, part of the new reality, right? That is just part of what happens, and that's part of what I call traveling to the new reality, traveling to the new world. You're not living in your own reality anymore. If your loved one or your clients are saying, I had this one woman in this facility she was not my client, but they were all my clients because I was going to do whatever I could for any of them that I could do. So I was leaving one night, and she had her little walker, and she was so cute. And she was walking along in a hallway, and she looked at me, and she said, "What is all this stuff here for?" There wasn't anything on the ground. There was nothing on the ground. And I saw her, and I went, "Oh, what is all that stuff? What is that doing here?" And I don't know. I said, "You know what? I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to get someone. We're going to take care of it right now. So can you make it around yourself, or do you need some help?" No, I can do it. I just don't understand this mess. And I said, "I hear you." And that was it. Now, what I could have said was, there's nothing on the floor. You're fine. Just keep going. And in fact, I did notice the caregivers did not, they didn't say, they weren't nasty to her, but they didn't know what to do. They had no idea. And so, that's always my, sort of my philosophy is go where they are. If they are saying, "Oh, wow, look at how green the sky is today," it will do you no good to say, "The sky's blue. It's always been blue. Wow, look at that green sky." You're not going to change their mind, right?
That's right. Oh, yes. Marisa, I could tell you right now, I love you. I told you that before. I love what you're saying. Caregivers, listeners, I really want you to listen to Marisa because she is telling the truth. I was a caregiver. This is the truth. And I really do wish that I was given a book like this, because I didn't handle my mother-in-law's hallucinations. I thought she was just being a witch. I didn't know. I had no idea. With Matt, my husband, it was different because I was already, new. And, if people would just read and know what to expect and educate themselves, they would be under less stress. And, of course, living with someone with it and reading about it, and it's two different things. But at least if you read about it, you know what to expect. You know what to do.
Right.
And it's so much better when you know what to do and you know what to expect, instead of it being a complete shock, as in my case.
Right.
The first time.
And I have heard that story so many times that, like people like you that have gone through it with several people, and how that first time is like, it's the trial and error time. And if you don't know, like, there's probably a lot more information out there now than there was back then. But I was at an event. I was at an event last year, and everybody was sharing, oh, what do you do? And blah, blah, blah. I met this really amazing woman, and she's like, oh yeah, my father has Alzheimer's or has dementia, and she was talking a little bit about it, and she said, yeah, and when my brother died, we had to keep telling him that my brother, and I was like, oh no, and she didn't really like that I had that response, but I was so shocked because this was a really intelligent woman, not to, make a judgment or whatever, but I was like, I thought for sure that she would be open to hearing a different way, but she didn't want to have anything to do with that. And I think that's, again, like that new reality, when you recognize the person is in a new reality, then you can deal with them in that way. And I'm just going to say this to all the listeners right now. If you take nothing away from this podcast except for this, please do not give upsetting news to a person with dementia or Alzheimer's. Why? Because they will forget, and they have forgotten that the event happened, right? So let's say you have a family member who has passed away, even if it's their spouse. Oh, where's my husband? I want to see my husband. Oh, well, Mom, your husband died 20 years ago. What? They will grieve as if it just happened just now. They will experience all the grief, and then they'll forget. And if you tell them again, they will forget and grieve all over again. So does that make sense to you, Betsy?
That's true. Absolutely. I agree 100%. I could tell my, own experience, and backing you up, Marissa, Matt, near, the end of his life, saw his mom, his dad, and his brother. Well, I didn't say, oh, Matt, they're dead. I said, I'm glad you had a nice visit with your mom, dad, or brother. How are they doing? Tell them I said hi next time you see them. Why?
Right.
Aggravate them. Now, if that was 20 years ago, I probably would have said they're dead.
Right.
Because I didn't know any better.
You didn't know better.
Because I didn't know better. When my mother-in-law was accusing me of stealing, and I was arguing with her, and I shouldn't have argued with her. I should have handled it totally different. And I didn't because, like I said, I didn't have the information. And I am, living proof that, and I can honestly say, the caregivers, listeners, even if you don't have anybody with dementia in your family, you might. The way it keeps growing, get this book. Educate yourself. I can't impress enough education. I'm not putting anybody down by any means.
Right.
You need to be educated.
Yeah. And I really believe that every caregiver, whether you consider yourself a caregiver or not, if you're what I call an informal caregiver, you just know somebody with dementia, or if you are a formal caregiver, I believe that everybody does the best that they can. Like, even if it's, even if it doesn't
Right.
have the response that you're looking for, we all are doing the best we can, but there is information out there, and they're being forewarned and being educated, even if it is ahead of time, it's so important, because
Oh, yes.
there is no doubt in my mind that everybody alive now will be touched by dementia in their family at some point, because the numbers are just increasing. They're supposed to triple by year 2030 unless, some big breakthroughs happen. And let's hope they do. Let's hope they kick Alzheimer's ass, right? Like, let's hope
That's right.
for that.
That's right.
So,
do you have anything in your book about end of life and transitioning as to what that looks like?
There's a little bit about that. I mean, I did a little bit of hospice work several years ago. So end of life with dementia, because dementia is there's no linear, you know what I mean? There's no
right.
real set trajectory. I mean,
that's true.
Everybody will pass away, and somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, will eventually pass away from something around their disease, another symptom, or what am I trying to say?
They could have a comorbidity with it.
Right. So, I mean, the things that I have about end of life is really just you still have to know the person. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the trainings that I've taken about aromatherapy and touch, and using the other senses as the person's senses go away. Well, I've had clients that they don't want music. Music irritates them. Music agitates them. So saying, oh, you should use music or you should use aromatherapy. Some people don't want things that are smelly on them, it's really knowing the person. I feel like you have quite a bit of information about the end of life stuff. Is there anything in particular that, that you're thinking of?
I think that, everyone is different. We all know that anyone who's diagnosed with dementia, what the end result is, and unfortunately it's dying.
Right.
What happens from, time of diagnosis till that time is different for everyone, and so is the end of life different for everybody.
Right.
And it's so bizarre and it's surreal when it happens, because I did read about it. I've heard, other caregivers talk about the end of life, but when I experienced it for myself, it was like, wow. And I worked as a licensed practical nurse, so I did see people pass away before me. I never saw anyone transition the way my husband did in my years as a nurse. So I did not know about transitioning. We weren't taught that back then in the Stone Age. And when I went to school, which was I graduated nursing school in 1976. And just like Kubler-Ross was coming out with, about death and dying, and it was just starting to get popular, talking about a little bit about death. But I never saw anyone go through what, my husband experienced. And you know what, folks? Not everyone fits a textbook. It's a guideline.
And that's what I like. I do consulting and support, and I have a course for caregivers. And what I always try and teach is to stay in the moment that you're in, because I feel like caregivers get so afraid of what the next step is, and while you want to be prepared, you also have to get really good at staying sort of in the present moment, because everything changes all the time. And so because so many symptoms that are sort of in the medical model of dementia and Alzheimer's, they don't ever happen. Like some of them just don't ever happen. Like people getting violent and things like that. Like a lot of that just doesn't happen. And I think people get wrapped up in, well, what if this happens and what if that and how will I know? And the problem is you won't know. You don't know until you're there what's going to happen. That's the real one of the downsides of dementia. You know, it's really like a roller coaster that you choose to be on because you love the person, and you don't really know where the ride's going to take you. So it's like being prepared for things and also being able to stay present. I know that for one of my clients that I had, it was just, I really had to practice that because I would get so, you know, we would have a great day, and then at the end of the day, she'd get mad. I'll just give you an example. She would get mad when I was going to leave. She'd be mad and just get out of here. Just leave. You don't care about me or whatever it was. And I would go home and I would fret and I would be upset. And then the next morning I would show up and I would still be anxious. And then when I'd show up, hi, how are you? What are we doing today? You know, I mean, really just forgetting that they are really in the present moment too. And so even with these, you know, the harder stages where, you know, the person stops remembering you or where they aren't mobile anymore or, you know, all of those things that happen, that can happen. Let me rephrase it. That can happen. You got to be prepared, but you don't really know for sure that they're going to happen.
So true. That every single word you said, Marisa, I can vouch for. I can vouch for 100%.
Wow.
You know what?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it took me too long to learn to live in the moment because I was one of those caregivers. Oh, how am I going to handle this stage? How am I going to handle that stage? Don't worry about it. I know that's easier said than done. Really live in the now. I mean, I can't even say that enough. And don't be like Betsy. Don't be like Betsy Wurzel. Worrying about, you know, the future. Just really live in the now.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that is just, I mean, it's something we all have to practice that, right? I mean, it's just, I mean, in life, period, because we don't know what's happening. But when you have someone with dementia, you really have to, because you can't depend on that the way they are a moment before or what they like a moment before they're going to like in the next moment. I had a client who loved anything sweet. She loved sweets. And yet, if you talk to her, she would say, I can't eat that. It's too much sugar. She's very, you know, judgmental and funny. I always thought that was really a funny thing. You know, I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. But she had no connection as to, you know, that what she was saying and what she was doing were completely opposite of each other, and that I knew because I was there with her as she ate the cookie or whatever it was that she ate. So you cannot depend on their changing their mind, you know, and people say, well, my mother-in-law, she lies. She says this, and then it's like, she's not lying. She's just being in her own reality. And so, I mean, I know that we've had discussions, you and I, about a sense of humor. You can develop that sense of humor about the situation and just be like, wow, isn't that, fascinating? Or isn't that interesting that this is this person's experience, you know?
That's right. And this dementia, whatever form of dementia your loved one has, it is a learning process, folks. It is we don't call it a roller coaster ride for nothing, you know. It's what works in, like, at this present moment may not work 5 minutes from now, may not work the next day.
Exactly.
And it's a learning process. And if anything, what dementia taught me is you have to be flexible.
Right. Yep.
You have to just be flexible.
Yes.
Yeah, and be an actress or actor.
Yes, you do, because you are playing a role. I really believe that, you know, especially I have not cared for a spouse, and so I don't want to speak to that. But to a degree, you are playing a role now, and I think that's what's so much harder about caring for a spouse, because this is the partner that you've had. This is the person that you know, are growing old with, and all of that. So I have so much compassion for that role and what it is, because when you really have to pretend, that's really lonely. That's a really lonely place to be. But I do believe that is what has the best outcome. It's what gives the caregiver joy and what brings joy and peace to the person with dementia. If you can, you know, be with them in the way they need to be with.
Yes, and you have to have a sense of humor. I call it laughing through your tears. Believe me, my son and I did that a lot. And you have to see the humor. You really, you know, have to. You develop a dark sense of humor.
Right,
and
you do. Yeah, you
do.
Yeah.
Dark sense of humor. I had one anyway from coming from a nursing background. And you do. You just develop the dark sense of humor. And, you know, like my son and I, when Matt would hallucinate, and I said, Josh, you have to actually pretend to act, and you're going to throw people out of the house.
Right.
You tell Dad, okay, you know, I'm sorry you're upset that these people are here. Matt thought that people were hitting him in the head. Sorry that, you know, if they hurt you, I'm going to throw them out now. And you do have to meet them in their reality, because, folks, I'm going to tell you, save yourself the stress and aggravation. Don't argue with someone that you cannot reason with. They don't have ability to reason. And to them, their hallucination is as real as what you're thinking. I mean, it's just their reality. And I love that you said it's the new reality, and the caregiver, I think sometimes they have to get over themselves and get into their loved one's reality. And it's hard for them to do that. Does your book talk about acceptance, like accepting the situation?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Because that's the only way to be successful is to accept where they are. And really, you have to accept where you are as well, right? You have to say, you have to be, like, present with yourself, like, wow, this is, like, really hard. This is a really hard situation. And how am I going to do this? How am I, you know, going to carry on and care for this person and let them be them? Let them be who they are now, and not be trying to bring them back to the way they used to be. So acceptance is like the first step, right? And a lot of times the person with dementia doesn't have acceptance, right? They're trying to hide. They're trying to cover up things and be like, I'm normal. I'm totally normal. I mean, it's normal for them to do that. So as the caregiver, you have to be, you know, kind of on top of it a little bit. It really is. I really feel like it's definitely a dance, or it's a skill. It's like an agility that you have to develop, because you have to be ahead of them, but you have to let them think that they're ahead of you. So I don't know. I guess I don't know if I'm making sense, but
oh no,
really
you're making perfect sense.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a seasoned caregiver.
Right.
I don't know everything, but I'm telling you, you are making perfect sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marisa, so much for sharing your book with us. How can people buy your book? Where is it available?
So the book's available on Amazon, and it's called Surviving Dementia Without Losing Your Mind. My name is Marisa Pasquini, but if you type that into the search in Amazon, the book will come up. There's like a bulk order. If some organization wanted to order a bunch of them, they can contact me. My website is nationalhomecareacademy.com. They can go there and send me an email if they want to buy, if they need them for an event they're having or something like that. So those are the best ways to get a hold of me, is get a hold of the book through Amazon or nationalhomecareacademy.com.
And how would someone get a hold of you for your training or your caregiver groups? How would they get a hold of you?
So that same, going to my website and sending me an email is a great way to find out more about the trainings. And I send out things occasionally through my website. I have a list if you want to join that. That's pretty easy. I'm on Facebook under my name, Marisa Pasquini. And also I have a group called Surviving Dementia Without Losing Your Mind, so you can join the group. I'd love to have you. We just share tips and strategies, and I do some videos and things like that on the page. And I would love to connect with anybody that's looking for support. I have a support group twice a month on the first and third Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And it's online, so we've had caregivers from coast to coast. In fact, it's been international. I had a caregiver from Puerto Rico on the call. I had a caregiver from Canada on the call. So it's available and just a place to share and feel connected and be able to vent and whatever. So please reach out to me, and I offer consultations for people. If you let me know that you heard about me through this podcast, I will give you a 30-minute consultation for free. So when you send an email to me, just put Passionate World Talk Radio or Chatting with Betsy in the subject, and when I get that, I will know that you heard it here, and we can talk and strategize if you're dealing with something in particular. I know a lot of caregivers have these particular challenges that come up, and then they're like, what do I do here? And I love to brainstorm with people and figure that stuff out. So please use me as a resource. I'd love it.
Oh, thank you so much, Marisa. I probably said your name right. I say it the New Jersey way.
That's okay.
Let me tell you, folks, if I heard Marisa giving a 30-minute consultation free, I would be jumping, like right now. Jumping on the phone or computer. Not only would I be wanting that 30-minute consultation, I would be ordering her book, going into her Facebook group, and finding out whatever else she has to offer, because, folks, you can belong to more than one Facebook group. I do, and I'm not even a caregiver anymore. Marisa is also a member of my group, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement. You don't have to have Alzheimer's. We accept any dementia, whether you have it or not, or you just want to be educated, inspired, learn how to advocate for yourself. This was a great, Marisa. Thank you so much. Thank you for your generous gift that you were offering the listeners. Listeners, if you missed any of this audio cast, I would really listen again, okay, because you don't want to miss Marisa Pasquini's offer. and her information will be in the blog also. You can get Chatting with Betsy on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart, CastBox, Google. It is on YouTube. Look for Chatting with Betsy, Passionate World Talk Radio, and subscribe. It is for free, and you won't miss my shows, because you never know who I'm going to have on and what the show is going to be about until I announce it. So you don't want to miss it. And you could hear this, over and over again, because sometimes you need to write it down. So you might want to listen to it a second time to write it down. I wish, really, there was this information available to me even 10 years ago. And people, whether you're a caregiver or not, really educate yourself. This book would be a great gift to give to somebody that you know who is a caregiver, or gift it to yourself. You could read it and then give it to someone else. It's a great gift to give to a caregiver, and I think they would really appreciate it from a friend or a relative. I know I would have. And I want everyone to have a great Memorial Day weekend. Be safe, be kind. And I don't know who said this quote, but my teacher used to tell me when there was a test. It's to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So when you are reading about dementia and how to handle different situations, you are arming yourself with knowledge that will help you when you reach a certain point in your loved one's condition. Don't be shocked when they have a hallucination and they sundown. You want to know, how do I handle it? What do I do? Well, you know what? You get Marisa's book, you'll know what to do, okay? You listen to my shows, people have experience, you will know what to do. Join a support group. If it's not mine, join Marisa's or someone else's. Get on Facebook. There's so many. I went crazy. I literally went crazy joining support groups because I didn't have any support. And then you weed out what you don't like. But please join support groups and get that information.
Good advice.
Because we learn from other caregivers. That's how I learned. I learned from other caregivers. That's how I learned. So thank you, Marisa. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'd love to have you on again.
Sure,
And good. And folks, you know what? If you're a caregiver, you're doing a good job. Pat yourself on the back. If you survived caregiving, help somebody else. Help somebody navigate these waters so they don't drown. Until I chat again with you, this is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.